Just imagine my plight the first time I tried crossing a busy Indian road with my 3 young children in tow. I was in the old city of Hyderabad just 1 week after we moved to India, and it was my first time ever in the city. I was still trying to get used to the sights and the smells and the sounds of India. And there I was, stuck on the side of the road, and I could not get to the other side. There were cars and carts, there were tuk-tuks, there were street sellers, there were beggars, there were animals. There were 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers, and even water buffalo, all going in both directions. And amazingly, there were also people crossing this road without bothering to look both ways. Everyone was able to dive into the chaos, except us. We were stuck on the side of the road. I eventually had to ask an auto driver to pretty please just drop us on the other side of the road. I'm happy to say I no longer have to stand on the side of the road, and even my youngest daughter just puts out her hand confidently and stops the traffic. It has been 7 years since that day, and I have been forever changed. India can overwhelm you with her love, but she can also destroy you with her violence, especially if you're a woman or a girl. Now you might wonder, how does a South African who is not a cricketer ends up in Hyderabad working on gender-based violence? Well, for the long story, you'll have to come and have chai with me at my house. For the short story, they say a dream is something you want to do, but a calling is something you have to do. And out of that calling, my Choices Foundation was founded 6 years ago. My background is in investment banking and finance, so when we moved to India, I was hoping to use this finance background to help women and empower them to better understand their finance, so in turn, they can better support their families. It sounded so simple at the time, but that is not how things panned out. For my first 6 months in Hyderabad, I visited as many NGOs, women's groups, self-help groups, basti meetings, community meetings as I could. And time again, after the first chai, the women would slowly open up and start sharing the horror and brutality of their daily lives. Lives where domestic violence and abuse was the norm. And I soon learned that these women and their stories were not the exception. But let's put the statistics into reality. Could each one of you who received an orange flag please wave it in the air? Now please have a look around you. If India's population of 1.3 billion was boiled down to the size of this group, then each one of you holding a flag represents a woman facing abuse at home. This is what it looks like. Over 40% of Indian women face abuse in their home. And it's difficult to believe, but research shows that over half of Indian men, women, boys, and girls believe that a man hitting his wife is a justifiable expression of his masculinity. And globally, violence against women and girls are the most destructive pandemic on earth. 1 out of 3 women have survived physical or sexual abuse. It touches all of us. It touches generations of families, communities, villages, and cities. And in economic terms, violence against women and girls exacts a staggering price tag of $7 trillion a year. In the time I've been on the stage, 1 Indian girl around the age of 12 has been sold into sex slavery. By the time I finish this talk, another 5 will have been taken. Every 3 minutes. That's how often a girl around the age of 12 gets trafficked, brutally beaten and raped by more than 30 men a day. And only 1% of them will ever get rescued. So these 2 issues, domestic violence and the trafficking of young girls, are very uncomfortable to talk about. But if we don't talk about it, and if we don't confront the issue, how can we start to do something about the reality? It's a common question we get asked. Why is there so much violence and discrimination against women and girls? One of the root causes is patriarchy. Patriarchy is deeply entrenched in almost every society on earth. It touches everything we see around us and what we read in our papers. So we wake up in the morning to a paper that says, "Girl raped after late night out." And then we have some politicians respond to it by saying, "Boys will be boys." And then we have the parents of the daughters saying to them, "Don't stay out after dark and don't wear a dress." And the next morning, we hear the whispers of the neighbors. "I hear she was wearing a skirt." In a gender-equal world, this headline would have read, "Innocent girl raped while returning home from work." But there's good news, and it might not be what you think. For way too long, men have been seen as creating the problem. They are, after all, the main perpetrators of domestic violence and trafficking of young girls. And therefore, we've excluded them from being part of the solution. But this just perpetuates the problem, because a boy growing up in an abusive home is 5 times more likely to be abusive. And a father who lets his daughter go with a trafficker, is it because he doesn't love her? No. He believes the false promises of the traffickers, and not knowing better, he believes it's the right choice for her and for his family. The father does not know that his daughter will be raped and beaten until she breaks down. He doesn't realize. He doesn't realize that from the day she gets broken in, which basically means she'll get gang raped till she surrenders, she will most likely not survive another 7 years. So how do we change this? Is change even possible? How do we change behavior that's been instilled in our culture for generations? How do we help these fathers to become the good fathers they want to be? So our team wanted to find the answers to these questions. We learned from each other, we learned from other NGOs, we learned from abuse, women and girls, but most importantly, we learned from boys, men, and fathers. We commissioned research to better understand male behavior and better understand the behavior of fathers who let their daughters go. Our research paper last year won the award for the best market research globally, and we partnered with VR for Good to create the world's first virtual reality documentary on sex trafficking. And you know what the key insights was from this research? 9 out of 10 fathers want to be good fathers. They want to do the right thing, and they want to look after their daughters. So these insights drove the design of all our programs. If we want to see lasting change, we have to fundamentally make all men and fathers part of the solution. But first, let's just talk about access to help. Did you know that 2 out of 3 women facing abuse will never share their story? They feel it's their burden to bear, they're too afraid to approach the police, or they fear the public humiliation. And families who are victimized by trafficking, they don't even know it exists. And when their daughter goes missing, they don't know where to find her or how to find help. So at My Choices Foundation, we help them by showing up in their city, their village, their community, and we provide them with choices, and most importantly, we teach them how to stop the abuse and how to prevent the trafficking. So I want you to meet Deepa and Raghav. Soon after they got married, things went downhill. It started with jealousy, but pretty soon escalated to Raghav bringing over other men to abuse his wife with him. Deepa felt there was no one to talk to and no one to trust. She faced 14 years of daily abuse and beatings, and her life only changed the day she met one of our peacemakers in her community. A peacemaker is just a local woman who we train to be a change agent in their community. We train them how to spot the abuse and how to bring the families to the center. She brought Deepak and Raghav to our center, and it was there that Raghav realized he doesn't even really know why he's abusing Deepak. He can just remember this is the way his father treated his mother. And in the absence of a good role model, he felt that's the example he has to follow. In the absence of a good role model, Deepak was abused by Raghav. So what we do is we sit with them, we train them, we counsel them, but most importantly, we teach them and show them what the impact is of this abuse on their family. And we show Raghav how to stop the abuse. Raghav is committed to stop the abuse and set an example to his children, because we believe the biggest gift a father can give his children is to love and respect their mother. But Deepak and Raghav's stories are not the exception. We have worked with over 3,500 families just like them. Our counselors have invested 150,000 hours of counseling into these families' lives. We've equipped 24,000 schoolgirls to keep themselves safe. And we have a 78% success rate. What does it mean? In 78% of the cases and families, we are able to stop the abuse and bring about change and peace into these families' lives. So the way we as an organization show up in these abusive homes are through our peacemakers. But how do we show up in the remote village from where a young girl is trafficked? We do not have the time or the resources to conduct our Safe Village program in each of these villages. Yet, every minute counts and every goal counts. At My Choices Foundation, we are firm believers in technology. So we partnered with Quantium, a big data analytics company, to help us to design a village mapping algorithm to identify the at-risk villages. And once we know which villages are at risk, we can conduct our Safe Village programs. At one of our recent programs in West Bengal, our team leader was approached by a 7-year-old girl. And with tears in her eyes, she cried out, "Why did you not come to my village earlier? Why did you not come and show me what is happening? If you had come to my village, this would not have happened to me. If you had come to my village, my parents would not have let me go." She was one of the 1% that did get rescued, but in the process had her childhood brutally stolen from her. And this could have been prevented. So in our Safe Village program, this is what we do. We meet with the fathers, we meet with the mothers, we meet with the boys and the girls, the teachers, the principals, and the sarpanch. We train, we have chai, we meet, we have chai, and we train. And we show them through educational movies, and we equip them through our comic book, drama skits, on how to keep their village safe and how to keep their girls safe. We spend a lot of time with the mothers to make them informed mothers. Knowledge is the most powerful weapon we can give these mothers to protect their girls. But most importantly, we spend a lot of time with the fathers to help them to become good fathers and the girls to become guardian girls for each other. In a language and a message that the father understands, we talk to him about his crop and how he will never harvest it early, how he will protect it and give it enough water. And in the same way, he needs to protect his girl. Don't let her enter into child marriage, how to spot the traffickers, how to spot the method of the traffickers, and how to keep his girl safe. I want you to meet Saidul. He's a father of 5, 3 daughters and 2 boys. He was approached by a neighbor who wanted him to let his daughter Rakshana go to Delhi to marry a businessman. Saidul thought it's a good opportunity. I thought she would be safe. I thought she would have at least 2 meals a day. I thought this was a good opportunity. The neighbor who approached Saidul turned out to be a trafficker. And unfortunately, Rakshana and her story is not an isolated incident. There are currently 5 million girls enslaved in India, and 99% of them will never get rescued. So I can't tell you how happy I am that Rakshana did not end up as a child slave. Her father, Saidul, attended one of our Safe Village programs, and there he was taught on how to keep his daughter safe. And given the ways and the opportunity, he wanted to protect his family. He wanted to be a good father. Ruxana's father is one of over 50,000 fathers we've already trained in our Good Father Army. And we've reached over 715,000. We've reached over 715,000 individuals through our Save Village program, equipping all of them to keep their village and keep their daughters safe. So showing up this because change is possible. In India, our engineering colleges train 1.5 million engineers every year. If we can do that, surely we can train an army of good fathers. We cannot allow that on our watch, a 12-year-old girl goes missing every 3 minutes, brutally beaten and raped 30 times a day. I have to admit, the work we do is not easy. We deal with immense pain and suffering. And in the process, our hearts are repeatedly broken. And there's a grief that sits deep on your soul. But doing what we do every day gives us courage. And courage does not just transform us, it also transforms those around us. And you know what's the good thing about courage? It's contagious. So courage can transform families and villages and communities and cities. My team and I have been given the privilege to step into thousands of families' lives and help them slowly repair the broken pieces and help them replace violence with peace. We've been given the privilege to guide thousands of girls of what it means to be a guardian girl, not just for yourself, but also the girl next to you, and in the process, help prevent them from having a brutal life where they will most likely not survive their 19th birthday. We've been given the privilege to guide thousands of fathers on what it means to be a good father, a father that protects his daughter and keeps his village safe. TED is about ideas worth spreading. Bringing an end to gender-based violence is one of the most important ideas in the world worth spreading. This TEDx is about do. So what are we doing about this? I know what I'm doing about this. I know what our foundation is doing about this. But what are you doing about this? In this audience today, we have some of the world's most progressive minds. Do you see this as your solution or your problem to solve? You should, especially if you are a male. We need you to step up and stop gender-based violence. You hold the solution in your hands. Just imagine an army of good fathers, an army of fathers who will value, respect, and protect one of our most precious assets, our girls. So if those of us who can act remain inactive, if those of us who should know better remain indifferent, and if the voice of justice is kept silent when it should be speaking up, then evil will triumph. As a human race, we may falter and we may fail, and we sometimes take too long to do what is the obvious. But ultimately, deep down, we do know what is right and what is wrong. Let's start doing what is right. Thank you.